Okay, so I'm hoping the book will be educational. Well, why? Well, because maybe it would be better for people to be educated than not to be, so that they don't have to suffer so stupidly, and so they could be less malevolent, and that the world would be a less brutal place. That would be all right. So that's part of my goal. I'm a clinician. I want to fulfill that part of my moral obligation to justify my privileged position in the social hierarchy, right? I'm a scientist. I want to test my hypothesis and see if they're correct so I can advance the scientific domain and push human knowledge a little bit farther out into the unknown, right? And I'm doing that maybe because I want to be a good person, something like that. Okay, so now we're a long ways out in the moral hierarchy, and so now we might think about, well, what does it mean to be a good person? Does that mean something? Well, you think it does, because you know people who are good people, and you know people who aren't good people, and you make a qualitative distinction between them, and you know when you're being a good person, and when you're not, and you make a qualitative distinction between that too. So I don't think we have to have a discussion about whether or not good and bad people exist. We might have a discussion about how you distinguish between them, but that's a different issue.
Hello and welcome, Hex XEN. What exciting times. Just yesterday we had Valentine's Day. The God Whale was in action. First he didn't do anything, but then some people made him aware of what is going on, I guess, and then he ended his stakes. And today we have the founder of Pulse Domains here in the house. I will interview him, ask him about his product, and I'm really excited to ask him how he will use this tool to onboard the people into the future, into the blockchain of the future, into PulseChain. So with no further ado, let's bring up Pulse Domains. Pulse Domains, how's it going, man? How are you doing?
What's up, Abid? Thank you so much for having me. I think we're all excited with hopefully soon V3 coming out. So I already feel it in my stomach that things are about to explode soon.
Right, I'm so excited too. Like the Nordic girls, they're tweeting so interesting tweets about V3 coming soon, maybe hours, maybe weeks. And I have the feeling it's really going on. Now we have a lot of price action. We have the God Whale who was just pumping in money into the liquidity pool, made everybody really excited about Hex, and now like there is this tension, and this is obviously something that we want to explore today in the stream as well. We just talk a little bit about the market sentiment and so on. But, you know, for all the new people in crypto that find our channel KSP TV and maybe do not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, because I have enough questions about Pulse Domains. But first, I want to know about you. Are you a Hex XEN, and are you aware of our events? Because that's, I think, where we have met multiple times. So let's tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been in crypto for 6-7 years, and I think discovered Richard Hart during the Roger Ver interview. And quite in the beginning, when I saw Richard Hart, I looked through the comments and people were already, even at that time, a little hating on him. However, he was really sharp and articulate with his thoughts. And I'm like, regardless, you know, how people perceive him, if he speaks truth, let me follow him, right? And that was during the Bitcoin Hex days, and then he was about to launch a product, Hex in this case. We all waited for that one. Also aped in on the first day, which turned out not to be a good thing in the short term, but a very good thing in the long term. So have been in the Pulse and the Hex community since day one. Went to the first Vegas meetup, went to the second Vegas meetup. That's where we met. And then we reconnected just recently in San Diego again, and have been pretty much probably the first 1.5 years just like in the background, lurking on Twitter, watching all of you guys' streams and kind of like educate myself. And now I think you know, with this project and also other projects, I want to really ensure that PulseChain will be a success. And even if we can contribute a tiny bit, I'm more than happy to do that. So yeah.
Amazing, really great to hear that you are Hexagon from day one. And I was just yesterday talking to Access Alive. Once you got in day one or a couple of months later, it doesn't matter. Even if you come into Hex today, everything just lines up for this crazy situation. We have the narrative changing right now of, Richard Hart is a scammer, PulseChain will never come out, to, oh my God, what is going on? It is right there. Like the God whale is active again on Hex, right? He injected liquidity and he was bleeding on 2 of his stakes. So let's bring that up a little bit, because I think that's what the people are really interested in. And I want to ask you about your objective when it comes to this. So the Godway was bleeding. Okay, we had I posted those pictures, and we showed his account. It was unbelievable how much money he has. But there is one stake that is bleeding already for 2 weeks. He has paid 2% of his hex. So this was crazy. And this is another one that then also came out on that day. And I don't know if you heard it, but Gerardo from Look Into Hex could have counted those stakes. And I want to ask you, what is your sense about it? Would you have done the same? Would you have done anything different? Because I think I would have liked to see the Godwell bleed a little bit to distribute his wealth to the staker class. So what is your opinion about that?
Yeah, it's actually a good question. I saw the tweet from the Hex Whale bot yesterday on, I was on a different stream and saw that Gerardo good accounted that particular stake. Could be also just a reminder, because quite honestly, the God Whale is sitting on a ton of Hex. He could bring the price to 0, or high. And it seems like it was a gesture as to remind the God Whale that, hey, there's something bleeding, you might want to end stake. Or also, if you look at the dollar amount that the God Whale has in his wallets and all of his stakes, maybe it was just like, just like a bonus for all of us to let one stake bleed out. I think at this point, it's all speculation what his motives were. Or maybe he was on vacation, who knows, right? But I think it's all for us to speculate on this.
Yeah, we can speculate a little bit, and that's exactly what gets everybody excited. So, you know what? I thought a little bit more about it, and it is anybody in the whole world who can run the good accounting function. And he is a benevolent player in the ecosystem. He has bought Hex since the beginning, always held the price up, staked for like an average of 9 years. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So he is really a good whale, one of the whales that you want to have in the ecosystem. So maybe Gerardo wanted to just test, hey, does he maybe really has no access to his stakes? And then he end staked it. Because, if anybody can do it, then I think somebody like Gerardo can do it. And it's better than a hater doing it, right? So now what happened a couple of hours later is that the Godwell then decided to get the Hex and mint the Hex. So he ended the good accounting, he ended the stakes and got his Hex back. From there on, I've not looked into it deeper what he has done, but I just guess he hasn't done anything so far. But this statement that he signed this transaction, that he minted his Hex, shows that he had access to his wallet at any time. And it was actually his choice to bleed out. I think that is really, really interesting. And obviously now we can speculate even further and we can say, wouldn't it be amazing if he does again a stake, maybe for 1 day, for 45 days, it doesn't matter, and then just lets it bleed over the time and distributes his wealth. I think this would be so funny. Let's see if we see this ever again. But I think for now, we can confirm the Godwell has his keys in his possession. Everything is good, because so many people were worried a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, one other option is he could have just also nuked one of his stakes, right? But I think the Godwell is a very positive player in the ecosystem. He was also a ETH Genesis contributor, or basically, not sacrificed, but was in the early days of the Ethereum network involved. And then if you look at his chain analysis, which I've done long time ago, he never touches, or he does maybe 1 or 2 trades on a yearly basis. So he's very long-term minded. And looking at the past action that happened with Hex and how he stakes and how long he stakes, I think we're all happy that he's a big player in the ecosystem.
And it really shows that you haven't looked into the Godwell for a long time, because he has all these other addresses, for example, and just lately I think he has been a little bit more active. I know that he bought Pulse Dogecoin, for example. I know that he participated in other coins that are close to Hex as well. He did a couple of things. You just have to look deep into it. And at one point it is so tiring to do all those technical analysis and look into the trades and so on. And that's why I keep it to the guys who like doing it, because I don't like doing it at all. For me, it's just I listen to the people that do it, and then I'm happy that I get the information. But so far, I have not looked into the Godwell furthermore. But let me ask you this question, because a lot of hexagons were speculating the Godwell is RH. And what is your sense about that?
Hard to say, because the Godwell was on day one on the Ethereum blockchain. Basically, I think he sold 100K of BTC to get Ethereum, and Richard Hart at that time when Ethereum came out was an ETH hater. So I think there's a low likelihood that it's Richard's wallet. But yeah, again, speculation in this case. I just know when the Hex whale or the God whale essentially did the first market buy, that was kind of like 6 months after the Hex launch. I know for a fact, for me personally, that instilled a lot of confidence into the project, into the product. But if it's Richard, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be that way. But maybe we have Silver or other individuals that do chain analysis that might look at timestamps and all of that could figure that out. But I'm just happy he's part of it. I'm part of the ecosystem, and has also a very, very long time frame with his crypto.
This is exactly how I see it.
I don't know who it is, right? Could be also female.
Yeah, exactly. And, KDP was saying something really interesting. Maybe Richard is even friends with him because, we are friends, for example. We have met in real life. You are in crypto way longer than me, for example. Access to Life, the same. We are friends, and he's in crypto way longer than me, for example. And then, it is just possible that you have friends that are generous as well, if you are like a Richard Hart. And, it's not to say that Richard Hart has more or less money. It's just different money. Right? Back then, he was a Bitcoin maximalist. He probably has a lot of Bitcoin. So it's definitely interesting to see the people speculate. But I'm a little bit convinced it's not Richard Hart is not the Godwell. First, I think Richard Hart would have probably bought earlier, don't you think? Like dollar cost average, show your face in Hex earlier. That's why that's my first reason why I think it's not the Godwell. And also, would Richard really bleed out like this? Yeah, maybe actually, since we were making the point, he is bleeding out to the hexagons on purpose. Yeah, it can go either way, and this is exactly what I want to show. At the end, it doesn't matter at all, because those players, Richard Hart and also the Godwell, they seem to be really, really well for the ecosystem, and this is exactly what you are saying as well.
I mean, there's
Yeah, go on. No, go on.
There's a high chance that the Godwell and Richard know each other, because 2013, 2012, crypto was a very, very small community. Richard was a player there and actively involved in that. And looking at the chain analysis of the Godwell, he was active during that time as well. So there's a chance that they either know each other in private, or through friends or conferences that they attended.
Well, I know this one time Richard Hart said, "Thank you, Godwell," and it sounded in a genuine way where I believe maybe they don't know each other, but it could be all intentionally by Richard, by the Godwell. It's so interesting. Crypto is a lot of speculations, and I think this was a really good warm up for the people to just look into crypto, look into you, how engaged you are in the crypto Hex community, and I think by just our little short talk here, the hexagons got a pretty good sense that this is a community project coming from a hexagon for the hexagons. So this is what we want to talk about today, about Pulse.domains. This is your domain here, and I want to bring up my screen share. Oh, this is a terrible picture that I here took. In the video description, guys, you find all the links that you need to follow along in this live stream here today. We have obviously the Twitter account of Pulse Domains. We have Pulse Domains .claim. That's where we will go in a second and ask all our questions. And then Pulse.domains, that's the application I think you can run, where you really connect with your wallet, where you can get your domain. And then later on, I will even show you my domain that I have created for Pulse.domains, and we will go directly to the site. You guys can see how I set it up. And I think you also have a demo prepared for us here that you can show us already how everything is working a little bit, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there are a couple of things to go through that I'm happy to show and showcase on some general functionalities, and then also just to kind of like back up to kind of like introduce why I'm building Pulse Domains. I've built companies in the past. Building is my passion, and I think when PulseChain was announced, I think the big question is like, okay, how can we create a thriving ecosystem of products that bring utility to PulseChain, right? So we have the DEX with PulseX, we have the lending protocols, we have a couple of folks that's focusing on stable coins. We have also someone who's focusing on privacy on PulseChain, right? And for me, looking into any ecosystem, what are all of the tools? And one of the other tools that was used or is used across multiple chains are domain names, right? And that was kind of like our contribution to ensure that PulseChain, once it launches, has all of the bells and whistles and the tools for individuals to play around, to configure, and hopefully even surpass functionalities that we see on dApps on Ethereum.
Amazing. That really shows a lot. So this is here the Twitter account of Pulse.domains. Guys, definitely go and follow. Here you see already 3,500 names have been registered. We will talk about that as well. You guys, you should definitely go always into the Telegram group of those projects that you want to follow, because that's where the people are interacting. They're asking questions that you may be not asking because you don't even know that you want to ask this question. And here is where you learn the most in crypto. And it is from the right source as well, that there are probably less scammers than on Twitter, for example. So that's why I definitely like that. And I have put that for you guys into the video description. So definitely go there. And right now here we are on pulse.domains/claims. And I want to bring up all my questions. And this is the screen share that we will have while we have all your answers. So let's do that here. First question for you. Can you tell us a little bit about Pulse Domains and who is building it? Is it you? Do you have a team? Tell us a little bit about the team of Pulse Domains.
Yeah, so it is basically me. I'm more of a founder/product person, and then also have a team that is traditionally Web 2 developers that then migrated to Web 3 4 years ago. Also, when and I think hiring good Web 3 developers is quite challenging. So we've done a lot of hiring and vetting and so on. So that's on that side. And then also when it comes to kind of like the functionalities that we built, and we wanted to ensure, and just to kind of like be clear here, we started with ENS. So Pulse Domains is a fork of ENS, and we included some additional features. In addition to that, all of our code will be audited once we're up and running on V3. And then also, I think some of the questions that usually come up with in the same lines is like, we do not have a sacrifice. We could have a sacrifice, we could have a token. However, we choose not to, and we will be launching with a fully complete product. And our goal is, I mean, I'm personally very happy about Hex and Richard and being part of the PulseChain ecosystem. And this is just like, one utility that we want to provide that is accessible for individuals on PulseChain. So going back to the mainnet claim, one of the things that we want to ensure that every individual has the opportunity to get their domain name for free. So when it comes to domain names, we see a lot of cyber squatting happening. For those that are not familiar with cyber squatting, so it's like one individual buys a domain name of a company or of an individual and tries to essentially sell it for a markup to that other individual, right? And in order to mitigate that, we came up with a free domain name claim. So if you are a Hex XEN, a Pulse XEN, Pulse XEN, if you're building on PulseChain, you qualify for a free domain. So we have, for instance, Mintra that claimed their domain name. This will be given out to them, where they can essentially have all of their links attached to it. we also have some individuals that have that are pretty active. They will be also receiving their domain name for free, and we just want to make sure that once we launch, that we have a fair distribution of domain names of individuals that are public, to ensure that, or to mitigate any cyber squatting, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like obviously, when I read through the page, I saw the word cyber squatting, and I first had to Google it, what it really is. So I'm happy that you explained it right now for the viewers, because I bet they had the question as well. It's really interesting how you are, trying to tackle this, because I was able to create my own PLS domain. Here you guys see it, abit .pls, and this is my domain here for now on the testnet, right? For on the testnet, everybody can do it. You can just sign in, you create your own domain, you put your picture in, all your information. I've done here the same, and you then see even my domain that I have registered under this PLS domain here. This is my site, pumphex.com, and also my Twitter domain, and everybody can do that so easily by just going to the faucet, claiming 10 test PLS, and that this is already enough to make this test domain here. But this is all on the testnet, and once you launch, whenever that is, when PulseChain comes out, then the people have to do it over again, right? And you also explained that those 5,000 people here, people that have 5,000 followers on Twitter, or are just doing their part, you will then gift the domain that they want for free, right?
Exactly. And here, again, the number is arbitrary. We just wanted to figure out a threshold for that. Also, if you are active in the Hex and PulseChain community, you have less than 5,000 followers, just reach out, just submit the name claim. We just want to make sure that there's, like the whole point of all of this is to mitigate cyber squatting, right? And even if you have 1,000 followers, but you're on all streams and you're engaged and so on, yes, just submit the name claim and we'll send you your domain name for free. For individuals that worry about privacy, we have also a guide on how to set up a net new wallet that we would prefer to send the domain name to that particular wallet. And we'll also send you some PLS tokens just to ensure that you have a clean wallet with your domain name if you don't want to dox any other domain name. If you don't want to dox any other addresses of yours.
And that's really good that you have it written down here, because I clicked the guide, I read through it, and I did it right away, just like you explained it here, so I don't dox myself. Really important for everybody out there to really follow the instructions. And, by doing things like this, you learn on how to actually transact on the blockchain, how to be secure on the blockchain, how to not dox yourself on the blockchain. All those things will help you in the future to really handle your crypto. That's why I think it's amazing what you guys doing here with Pulse Domains, really onboarding, not only onboarding, but also educating at the same time. So this is amazing.
It's so important, because one thing that I discovered, a lot of Hexicans and PulseChains are really not familiar with domains or blockchain domains at all. I think the functionalities are quite impressive. And something that we're also planning to do is, once we launch on mainnet and there's more buzz around PulseChain and so on, we'll be doing more extensive education on how you could essentially use them for decentralized websites, for on-chain profiles, and so on. Because the utility and the functionality of that is actually quite vast that most people have not yet learned or know about.
And this is exactly my next question. Like, give us your idea of what could be the future of domain hosting, or of individuals attaching their PLS address to their real, to a real name, to a brand. What could people do with that? What is the future of that?
Yeah, happy to share even my screen to give you an example of how it could look like, especially in the crypto space. Let me share my screen.
And one question that I have here from a viewer is, who owns Pulse Domains?
Yeah, so our contracts are forks of the ENS contract or project. Once we launch that on PulseChain, those domains will be kind of like issued by that contract. So you will be the owner of that particular name through that contract, if that makes sense. You can also transfer your domain name to others, or create even subdomains, but you will be the true owner of that domain.
Well, I think,
and also there's no way for us to take any domain names back, for instance.
But I think in this case, the question was more about really specifically Pulse domains, like who is the owner of that? Because the follow-up question is, how did you get the rights to sell Pulse domains?
Got it. Well, with blockchain, it's permissionless. Anyone can create smart contracts and built on it. Similar to us, similar to ENS, similar to Unstoppable Domain, similar to anyone. On like the biggest difference between domain names. So the traditional domain name scheme was essentially there's one organization called ICANN that owns all of the domain names. And in order to register with them, you pay $200K and you wait for 2 years to get that approved. In the blockchain world, with blockchain domain names, that is permissionless and anyone could essentially create that. The main goal would be in that case, you have functionality and utility and also integrations with other applications that will make or break your application. Yep.
Right, great.
Right.
Do you have your screen share prepared? Perfect. So
Yep.
I bring it up and let's do this little demo here.
All right. Yeah. So this is just like, one example of a domain name. So it's called helloworld.pls. Some of the things that we have is you could essentially attach all of your socials to it. So in this case, if you click on edit, all of the information that you have about your Twitter, your Telegram, your YouTube, and so on will be saved on the blockchain. So if you are the true owner of helloworld.pls, all of them are, verifiably on the blockchain and are truly yours. So we all know Richard Hart, and this is just like an example of Richard Hart. We know that there were a lot of imposters that, created either new Instagram accounts or new YouTube accounts or even Twitter accounts. So in this case, Richard Hart could essentially create, or anyone in the community could create, or even projects, right? Create their own domain name, and all of the links are verifiably on the blockchain and truly belong to him, right? So this is kind of like one way to mitigate imposters in that case. So that's kind of like the first use case. You essentially, if you own a domain name, all of the data that you post on that domain name are verifiably yours. The same goes also with projects on PulseChain or any other projects where you essentially have, profiles of projects on PulseChain with all of the links, and then also in the future the NFT collection, any additional addresses that attach to that. One thing that we thought about would be really, really helpful, because ABIT is one out of many individuals that daily, take out their time and stream for free to the community, educate the community, and so on. And one thing that we introduced is also to have like a send tip button that allows content creators to get tipped, right? Instead of going through super chats or through any other middleman, you could essentially, if you want to support a creator, tip them directly with PLS tokens on their profile page, and for a fact they're actually getting that rather than some middleman in between.
Oh, that's amazing, yeah. But at the end, the question remains, like, there is no KYC process, right? So many people can just make an other ABIT_hex and then another letter just to differ from the original one, and they would probably just make the same pictures. And like, how do you encounter this? Is this at one point be able to program out, this disgusting human behavior of scammers?
Yep. So in this case, all of our domain names are lower letters. And, if someone creates Richard Hart 1 or, that is something that we cannot control, right? There will be only one way for you to verify if you then, in this case, go on Richard Hart's Twitter and Richard actually promotes this particular link in this case, right? But there will always be, room for individuals to put a 1 or a 2 or a 3 into that and essentially try to scam pretty much, yeah.
100%. They tried all the time with me, for example. I get multiple scammers, like weekly, I would say, where hexagons luckily are on my side. They report them. So whenever you are encountering a scammer, an ABIT hex that asks you to buy a trading course, to ask you some shady things, it is not me. I will never DM first. So just report. That would help a lot. And with Pulse domains, I'm really excited to have something where I can say, no, ABIT hex, this is my address, this is all my links, everything verifiable on the blockchain. So that's going to be a really interesting tool for me to use. And I can imagine that a lot of hexagons want to use something like this as well. So we talked about all the links that you can integrate, but here you also, I see addresses of Dogecoin, for example, of Bitcoin. There are multiple use cases. So what are other use cases that you think in the future will be interesting?
Yeah, so as mentioned, you have, let's say, hello world.pls. If you attach .fyi into it, you will essentially have your on-chain profile where you can have all of the data displayed. One additional use case in this case is also to have subdomains. So you can issue as many free subdomains as you want, either for other team members or just for, let's say, your project that essentially, let's say, Mintra wants to issue free domain names to all of their users. They can essentially do that. And then users have their own subdomain that they then can configure and use, for instance. One additional feature that we just rolled out is, so for instance, you are extending the functionality of your Pulse domains by adding .fyi behind this. An additional feature is also to allow you to host decentralized websites. So we just introduced, just finished this particular product, which is a gateway to your decentralized website. So for instance, let's say if we go into more, if we go into records. So this is, in many instances, this is how a decentralized URL looks like if you host content on the decentralized web. Quite cumbersome, a ton of chance for error and so on. And what you could essentially do is you can connect it to your domain name, and then by just changing it, the FYI to TO, you then, in this case, have now a gateway to your fully decentralized website. In this case, this is a blog, and it also follows the URL structure that most people are familiar with, and so on. So so kind of like to summarize, it allows you to create a domain name. It allows you to create subdomain names. It allows you to have an on-chain profile such as this, and also allows you to have decentralized websites that then in that case feel and look like real websites that we're used to in Web 2.
That sounds amazing, and it sounds that you are really solving a problem here of the long domain that nobody can remember anyways, and then you just put a .to on there, and then we have a domain that is on the blockchain. Nobody can alter that anymore, right? And I think this is a really good use case.
Yeah, this stuff no one can change, other than yourself if you have it. But this is no one can change it. No one can take it down. No one can censor it. No one.
Especially in these times of censoring everything, it is really important that we have our stuff on the blockchain. So I think that is a really cool invention that you have here. And then I think you showed me the last time we talked on Twitter something else, but I was not, I didn't know if I was able to share that yet. Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Oh yeah, so what we're doing right now, we developed a lot of features around Pulse domains, some of them that are public, some of them that we will only announce on V3 once V3 comes out. And I think that makes a little bit more sense. But in an effort to increase adoption for PulseChain, we kind of like, decided, we're like, hey, we have a little bit of time. Why don't we figure out ways to support the PulseChain ecosystem? So we are creating and working on a comparison view between ERC and PRC20 tokens. So this will essentially allow you to, and I can show you the mockup. We just took the website down to have it revisited. But this is something that you guys can expect. So where you essentially see the Ethereum price, the PulseChain price, and the difference in percentages. So this will be a guide not only for PulseChains and hexagons, but also for individuals that know about the airdrop to figure out how much their tokens are worth. In addition to that, we'll have all of the top currencies on PulseChain. We just had a meeting earlier today, and there are over 1,200 tokens on PulseChain right now that are on PulseX, but they're not visible. So in this case, we'll be displaying all of them. And the goal is not necessarily to display them to buy them or not to buy them, but to attract other individuals to essentially either sell their tokens and so on. And then something that we're also currently gonna release in the next couple of days is also an easy way to help with the onboarding once PulseChain launches for individuals to, type in their address and check how many, actually this is the results page, how many tokens they got for free, right? So in this case, the whole main goal, this is totally free. The whole main goal is to onboard more individuals to PulseChain, make it aware that they have some free money on a different chain, and allow them to buy and sell that particular token if they want to. So this is kind of like part of our release while we're waiting for testnet v3.
I think this is beautiful. You know what? At this point, I realized that you are a market competitor to somebody like CoinMarketCap, for example, because they're ranking, they're showing coins and so on, but they're using an old method of doing so, which is the market cap. And as I see it, for you, it's rather the intention to show, okay, this is the coin on Ethereum, this is the coin on PulseChain, here's the price difference. And maybe you could rank in with other filters, right? What are some useful filters that you would think would be useful for the hexagons to rank the coins in?
I mean, honestly, this is a quick project that we decided to do while we're waiting for PulseChain v3. Because once PulseChain v3 is testnet v3 is out, we'll be doing some other things. And this is just like, hey, we have a little bit of time. Let's quickly create this. And this is our first step. While we're working on other things, we're planning to develop that. But then more importantly, if the community has feedback on like, hey, you should rank it in this way, or why don't we include this particular metric and so on, we're totally open. This whole idea around pulsecoinlist.com is to help onboard, and help the community to, spread the word and so on. So any feedback, be it in this case on like how to ideally show the ERC, and PRC comparison. If there are any, wishes that the community members have, please reach out to me, and we're happy to adjust that, right?
And this is exactly what we need. That when PulseChain comes out, we have the right tools available for us to onboard new people. And it's beautiful what you're building here. And it looks really professional as well. I cannot wait to one day PulseChain comes out and try it all out by myself. So PulseChain coming out is, I guess, the hot topic. Everybody wants to know. Yeah. And when PulseChain comes out, then what do you expect on how many people will actually claim their PLS domains? Because so far you are on testnet, and I have seen already the bot that you built saying that you have not onboarded, but thousands of addresses have been registered, and we are only on testnet, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this was really interesting. So we created a name registry alert bot that essentially pings out any names that are being registered. And it seems like maybe a week after we launched, I think someone posted our site on some Telegram groups or Reddit groups, and we saw like 1,000 registration within a day, right? So now we're at 3,720 registrations just on Pulse domains, right? And on one side, I find it awesome, but on the other side, I'm like, oh man, this increases the risk of cyber squatting. So please claim your free domain. Make sure you get it. Just like as a reminder, this is where you can claim. But it seems like that we had quite a bit interest, given we didn't do much advertising at all. We spent the majority of time just like building, and then once we actually had a product, we started slowly talking about this, right? And we'll obviously start doing more aggressive education on PulseChain mainnet once that's out. But yeah, I was also personally very surprised that we had that many registrations so far, right? And you could essentially go down the list and look at all of the addresses and so on.
But the good thing is that all that has been done so far is only on the testnet, right? And look who we have here in the chat, for example, it's CryptoSloth. Some of our hexagons that really need to get a PLS domain could be really benefit for CryptoSloth. So why don't we show him really quick to go to pulse.domains/claims and how to do the process of claiming your domain?
great point. So go to pulse.domains.claim. Here you essentially see, like a little bit of text on how to essentially do the entire thing, and I'll walk you guys through it. So just to get to the bottom here, at the very end, we need this. We need your Twitter URL, the name that you want to claim. If you're a project, we want your domain name or GitHub repo so we can verify it's actually you. And then if you have some nodes, right? And the way we essentially verify is at this stage will be through Twitter. So one of the parts is essentially you have to follow us on Twitter, and then also so we can essentially direct message you. And what we'll do is after you submitted it, closer to PulseChain main launch, we'll reach out to you and give you additional instructions. One of the instructions will be, hey, create an empty wallet that is not associated with any other wallets, and that's where we will send your domain name to, right? So for instance, CryptoSloth could essentially, type in his Twitter URL, the claimable name. Once we launch, we will essentially send, ask him to create a brand new wallet. We will send the domain name there. We'll also include a little bit of Pulse tokens so he can configure his own domain name and treat it fully separate from all of his other domain names. Yeah.
And this is something really interesting I was able to read on the page as well. So you will put Pulse already into this address and send it to the people so they can then try everything out and do everything that is needed, and they do not interact with their own address and send anything there to then again dox themselves. So I think this was the idea behind it, right?
Exactly. I mean, exactly, especially if you're, if you have a name that is associated with your internet or with your online persona, and I think many people on Ethereum that have ETH domain names didn't necessarily realize that, they just bought the .eth domain name, and someone that just uses a scraper on Twitter could just identify them, right? So that's why we want to educate individuals to treat their .pls domain names differently. If that domain name is associated with them, let's say, if you're buying 1234567.pls, no one knows who you are, right? So this could be your main wallet or whatever it is. But if you're buying, let's say, cryptosloth.pls, maybe there's a high chance it's actually you. We don't know for a fact, but maybe it is, right? But in this case, we want to make sure that you can, have a clean wallet that is not commingled with any other addresses. So here, if you go to docs.pulse.domains, we have all of the how-to guides on how to get started. We will continuously update that on V3 and then also on mainnet. But this is kind of like a small article around preserving your privacy, how to essentially use it on PulseChain testnet, and then also how to continue preserving your privacy on PulseChain mainnet. Yeah. So a ton of educational material that we will, in that case, continue to further educate individuals on.
And then I have another viewer question here by Focus Moldar. He obviously it is always a part of what we are doing, right? You want to encounter that people are doing it, but you also want to somehow incentivize that there are people doing exactly what the question is, which is, if we pay for a domain, can we sell it to someone else later on, maybe for a higher price?
Yes. And if you look at the history of ETH domains, people bought domain names for $5 and sold them for 20, 30, 40, 50K. Yes. We double down on functionality. What the market does with their domain names is none of our business. If people use it for speculation, sure. This is something that we've seen traditionally with .com domain names, and that's just part of the market dynamics. And people have done it successfully with .com domains and so on. People have also done it with .eth domains, and there's a very, very high likelihood we'll see the same dynamics play out with .pls domain names.
Well, you try to encounter it with the free claim, right? Where people send in their Telegram name, their Twitter name, their domain. Then you, when PulseChain launches, you will send them their own address filled with PulseChain. So you're trying to encounter it a little bit, right? But
Exactly.
Obviously, we are in a competitive market, cryptocurrency. People will do whatever it takes to gain a buck. This is the feeling I have.
Yeah, and FYI, we will be whitelisting around 2,000 to 3,000 domain names. that we believe are either project related, and we'll be auctioning them off on an NFT marketplace, be it in this case Mintra, for individuals to have a fair chance to buy them. In addition, domain names that are associated with PulseChain, PulseX, or any Richard Hart products will be directly given to RH's team. And so yeah, there's like a couple of categories that we will ensure that no one can cyber squat those.
And to get back to my question, because I don't know if you have answered them. So in the testnet, thousands of people have already claimed, but actually when PulseChain launches, one day it will come so far. Like, what do you think? What could be a number of people, like, claiming on the first day, in the first week, in the first month? How successful are you with your onboarding? Give us a number. What do you think do you have in your head?
It's a really good question. I mean, right now we've spoken to mainly hexicans and pulsicans and products or projects built within the PulseChain ecosystem. I've also spoken to some ETH maxis and so on, and we will also start to do more advertising and kind of like education around domain names on PulseChain once we're on V3 and closer to mainnet launch. My anticipation is maybe 2 to 20,000 names within the first couple of weeks. I mean, like, I've seen some individuals who, even created bots to mint a bunch of domain names. So that's why kind of like, if you guys are listening, if you could share, this particular site that you can, free claim it for free so that you're not getting cyber squat, that would be much appreciated. Because once a domain name is purchased, the nature of the blockchain is fully decentralized. We cannot take it back. We cannot shut it down. It's pretty much gone, right? And then you might have to buy it on the NFT marketplace. Yeah.
Again, that's really important, and that's why we are doing that right now. Here in the video description, we have all the links for Pulse Domains, and exactly the domain you were talking about is pulse.domains/claim. There you can claim for your Pulse domain in the future. Just set it up. We just showed you how to do it. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to not be cyber squatted in the future, to be the first ones for Pulse domains, and have our Hexican PulseChain and PulseX community really secured from this problem.
Yeah. And I see someone is also talking about giveaways. We'll be also doing some giveaways of some highly desired names. Let's say 3 or 4 digit domains. We'll be doing that too. But if you are an individual that is known on Twitter or have a product and so on, keep in mind you can get that domain name for free. So yeah.
And like I said, CryptoSloth came a little bit later, and he says, no, I don't have 5K on Twitter and YouTube. This is no problem. This is just to prevent the cyber squatting a little bit, And if you're a human being and you write a message to pulse.domains, they will see that you are not a bot, and it doesn't even matter that you don't have 5,000. It was just some kind of threshold that needs to be, reached, so we can just make sure there's no cyber squatting going on.
Yep, I think CryptoSloth is a really good example, right? I probably listened to 10, 15 hours of his content. He's really well known in the PulseChain community, in the Hex community, especially on the Hedron stuff and so on, right? So I don't think there's any other individual as CryptoSloth. So regardless of your followers on any channels, just like submit your name claim. We'll verify that through your Twitter handle, and you should be ready to go.
And CryptoSloth is saying, thank you, sir. So he will definitely be one of the people in the Hex community who should definitely look into pulse.domains. I did so already. You guys see here, this is the domain that I was claiming on the testnet so far only, but I was able to put in all my information and even put in all my links. And this is exciting for me to just try it out, because I already have a domain, obviously pumphex.com. You guys know it all. You should definitely check out the Pumpermentals. I think that's pretty funny, because we met on the US road trip here at this station, basically in my life for the first time. And you see here, we have a lot of other events going on in the future, and then with Pulse Domains, I can really verify that this is my page. Hex is doing that and not a scammer of some sort. So it's so cool that you are able, to do this now. And it is IFPS confirmed, right? It is really on the blockchain. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because a lot of NFTs a lot of metaverses, they don't do IFPS, and this is a big problem. So can you go into this topic a little bit?
Yeah, so especially if you go to pls.to, here we have a little bit more about how IPFS actually works. So IPFS is a protocol that is, you essentially can open up a client, so in this case a program, you can host your website on your own computer, for instance, and then essentially you are being given a hash. Let me see if I can find that here. Let me see. Well, you're actually being given a long hash that is your address. And instead of using that address as your URL to access your website, you could essentially do pls.to to get there. IPFS and IPNS and Skynet. So there are a couple of different Web3 storage providers that essentially do the same. We just support a couple, and in the future we'll be supporting more. But this is essentially a new way on how to host content, be it in this case a website, a PDF, an image, whatever you want to host, videos, YouTube, images, whatever it is, fully decentralized, that cannot be shut down. And we are still very, very early, like IPFS and Web3, like the decentralized web is still very early in its early stages, but we believe in the future, 3, 4, 5 years from now, we'll see more and more websites that cannot be shut down, especially with things that we have, especially things that are going on currently in the world where people are getting banned, things are being taken down, and so on. So this is just kind of like an early version of how the future will look like, where websites that cannot be shut down, that are fully decentralized, verifiable on the blockchain. Yeah.
And this would be my next question. Where do you see the future of Web3 domains heading, and how does Pulse Domains fit into that? And I guess this is exactly how you guys are doing it. Is there anything else that you see in the future could be really exciting, exactly in this area of domains?
Yeah, so I've talked to a lot of individuals that work at either at Unstoppable or involved with ENS and so on, and now it's still very early, but we have domain names extensions such as .com, .net, .website, .so on, that are all controlled by a centralized entity called ICANN, and they are deciding on what you can and cannot put on your website. If a government wants to shut you down, they give a call or they submit a form to ICANN, and your website is gone. In the future, we'll see websites that have a .eth, .pls, .ui for Unstoppable in their domain name, that those websites, are pretty much unstoppable and cannot be shut down. And this is we're still very, very early in this whole progression of where the web is going and how it's being developed.
And I think that solves a big problem as well, because we get this FUD all the time. People are saying, well, what happens if go.hex.com goes down and I cannot stake and stake anymore, even though it's wrong, right? There are so many other domains which we can go to, Backup Hex, Staker app, for example, and so on and so on. But now you created a tool that cannot be taken down by any government. And I think that is really important, and is really one of the fundamentals of crypto, really, to have something like this. The technology is just allowing us to do more and more and more. So that's amazing.
Yeah, one other thing that I did not mention is if you own pumphex.com, for instance, you can essentially claim that fully for free. So if you own a traditional domain name, you could essentially verify through your register that you're the actual owner, and you basically get that domain name fully for free.
All right, that's amazing. That's another possibility to just verify and make sure you get not cyber squatted, because I know a lot of hexagons have domains, that they want to use even in the future, even if .pls is out. This is something that you have built for a long time, so you don't want to give it up. It's amazing that you give us the tool to already register those.
Yep. Yeah, and when it comes to kind of like the identity aspect of it, we've been, there are use cases for signing in with your .pls name, or essentially do a payment through it. So right now we have Google sign in or Apple sign in and so on. And we're still in the very, very early stages where in the future you will see essentially, signing in through MetaMask or through your own wallet with your PLS.eth and so domain name. So I see all of those developments taking place. This might be the next cycle or the cycle afterwards, but this is where the trend is going of the decentralized web and identity. And we want to support that on PulseChain. And then once all of the functions on PulseChain are fully developed, going beyond that as well.
Wow, it really looks amazing. I could not imagine myself creating something like this, because I know, how many obstacles there are always when you are building. So the next question is, in what kind of challenges or obstacles were you running into when building Pulse domains? Can you maybe make a couple of examples? What were some challenges, things?
Yeah, totally. I think especially for the builders, you guys find it interesting. So I've built a couple of Web2 companies in the past. I have a really good understanding and have a lot of friends and coworkers and so on that are really good Web2 developers. With Web3, that was kind of like a new area to embark on. Especially to test out the skill sets. I've done a little bit in Web3 when it comes to building, but not fully developed an actual product. So we vetted over 22 different developers to identify, the handful of good developers that are kick-ass. And the quality of developers in Web3 varies dramatically. You have some developers that can create, a simple feature in 2-3 weeks, and some other developers that have, years and years of experience can develop that in a day or a couple hours. While also shipping quality code, and then also obviously having your code audited, right? So kind of like the development cycle in Web3 is slightly different. These were kind of like some of the challenges that we went, which really boiled down to finding the right people that are super smart, that know their stuff and can ship secure products quite fast. I mean, just to give you this example, right? Like our first version of this, from concept to first version of actually having it working, took 3 days, 4 days.
Oh, wow.
That's unheard of. And now we're essentially optimizing the speed of it and including some additional, but again, this is not a Web3 product. This is a Web2 product, right? And then also, where is that? Like this thing, this feature in particular is not done, but we're talking maybe about one day or 2 days, right? So having the right people is very important to develop and shipping good product.
And you said that how long was it? Did it take to create this product? Only a couple of days. I think on Pulse domains, then when PulseChain comes out, there is so much more work to do. It's basically a never-ending story. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Pulse domains took obviously longer. One, assembling the right team, going through multiple versions, ensuring that we also have the code prepared for auditing, and all of that. That took obviously longer. So like doing the smart contracts, doing the UI, and all of that obviously takes longer. And then also once we launch, the work actually starts there. Because we want to, and again, for any founders in this audience, we will be connecting with you, or please connect with us. We'll be doing a lot of integration work so that whenever you log into, let's say, Mintra, that you actually see your, helloworld.pls address. So once we launch, that's actually when the integration work starts. Where we'll be integrating, and we're already in touch with several teams on that. Again, this is all dependent based on V3 and then mainnet and so on, but we essentially open up several communication channels already with them, and we'll continue to do so after launch as well.
And here I have somebody in the chat who's saying Richard Hart will not like that with the smiley face afterwards. So it is probably sarcasm. I think Richard Hart will like that a lot, because the point is, if you guys would have not done that, somebody else would do it, right? And I'd rather have Pulse domains run by a hexagon for the hexagons. I think this is so cool what you're doing. You're providing us content creators your onboarding tools. You provide the normal users tools to then see what is the coin here and what is the coin on the Pulse chain. You prevent cyber squatting. You make it possible for everybody in the world out there to have like a domain on the blockchain, and basically for free. You claim your domain. I think this is what everybody should do, and then this domain will already be filled with PulseChain, so you can set everything up from the get-go. I think it is an amazing job that you're doing, and this will definitely help bring the people to PulseChain and adopt even more people than we could ever imagine. I think you're doing a really, really great job. Is there just something else that you want to share with our community to tell them what they be doing right now when it comes to Pulse domains, but also maybe in general when it comes to PulseChain and its launch in the future?
Yeah, a couple of things on the Richard comment. Richard has seen this. His comments were cool site, and then he found a couple typos. That was one of the first early versions. But again, regardless if he likes it or not, we believe looking at ENS or other domain names and looking at adoption on how people are actually using them, they are not just like some cool tools that no one really uses. But if you actually look at the adoption of domain names, they are positive and up to the right. Just look at ENS or Unstoppable and so on. And we are essentially a player within the PulseChain ecosystem, right? We are obviously very charmed if Richard likes our project and uses it 100%. And we also will whitelist all of his abbreviations of his name and any PulseX or PulseChain domain names. But with PulseChain, we're talking about a totally different product. It is a marketplace. It is a totally new chain, and there will be a lot of products that will be liked or disliked. When it comes to kind of like some other additional things I would like to share is, feel free to share Pulse domains with anyone that you feel might be a user or is interested in claiming their domain name for free. We know that there will be cyber squatters that will come, that will probably set up something to mint names. And we've seen also, domain names that were minted by individuals that are Hex related or influencer related and so on. And at this point, I don't know if there were the actual PulseChain projects that minted that name, or if there were individuals, just like cyber squatting. And so please share Pulse domains with others so everyone gets their fair share of getting their domain name for free.
And it would be amazing if all the hexagons are set up right away and have all the informations available, have their own domain set up, and this just will then help onboard more and more people. So you guys have heard it. Go into the video description, check out all the links, get involved, create your own PLS domain. Definitely do your claim and share it with your fellow hexagons. Maybe even tell them to also claim. I think this would be a big, big benefit. So thank you so much, Pulse Domains, for doing this live stream here with us today, for building those amazing tools. And now the last things that I want to say is I want to screen share and tell you about what is happening on abit_hex YouTube channel and on KSB TV in the next couple of days. Because if you guys go here to abit_hex, that's probably where you watch this video anyways right now. Here on videos, you see that I'm releasing also short videos of the things that I'm doing here in those long interviews. And I just put out the most interesting clips here. A clip from yesterday, for example, from Access Live, and other clips will come out in the future. And then here on KSB TV tomorrow, we will be with Kaylin talking about setting up a Trezor. I think that's a really, really important thing. And I will give you all my knowledge that I have gathered from the last 3 years on what are really good tips in order to set up your Trezor wallet. And then a couple of hours later, I'm on with Dipcatcher, also on AbitHex and KSB TV. You guys don't want to miss that. That's where we will talk about his new algorithm that just came out, for example. We will try to use it for trading view and all of those amazing things. So Pulse Domains, thank you so much for being here. I will now play the outro, and we will see us in the group room in a second. But last words go to you.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and then big props to you and the entire team. What you have done on the content creation side and driving through the United States and spreading the good word around Hex. Many instances that's forgotten, but you've done a lot to this community. I can't wait how the next months and years and decades will look like. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. And you guys, if you like this content here today, don't forget to like and subscribe. And now let's go on with the outro.
if you could live forever, would you?
Yes.
Okay, we're
Don't
done
even
with the
have to
interview.
finish the sentence.
Yes. No, okay, sure, that's an attractive idea. But the way I look at it is the knowledge that I'm going to die that creates the focus that I bring to being alive. The urgency of accomplishment, the need to express love now, not later. If we live forever, why ever even get out of bed in the morning? Because you always have tomorrow. That's not the kind of life I want to lead.
But why don't you fear not being around?
I fear living a life where I could have accomplished something and didn't. That's what I fear. I don't fear death.
You don't fear the unknown.
I love the unknown. I love it. You know what I want on my tombstone? My sister has this in her notes, just in case I can't tell anyone after I die. On my tombstone, a quote from Horace Mann, great educator. Be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity.